Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Last month, while in Israel on a trade mission, the Premier affirmed this government's opposition to the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement against Israel when she said, and I quote, "The BDS position is certainly not mine, nor is it that of our government. I entirely oppose the BDS movement." At the same time, back here in Ontario, this Liberal government was quick to vote down a bill that fought against this new form of anti-Semitism, a bill that would prevent the province of Ontario from conducting business with companies that support this movement. We all know that if an institution organized a movement to marginalize, demonize and physically attack LGBT communities, this government would be outraged. Yet, when a government-funded institution does this to the Jewish communities, it's justified as free speech.
Stop the clock. Minister of Energy is warned. You have wrap-up sentence, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Why did this entire Liberal caucus, with the exception of one brave member, refuse to support our Jewish communities?
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me just say that it was a wonderful opportunity. I was honoured to be able to travel to Israel, Mr. Speaker, and I did, while there, make a statement about our government's opposition and lack of support for the BDS movement. Any movement or any initiative that promotes anti-Semitism or racism or Islamophobia or sexism or homophobia, any movement that chooses to divide or encourages those kinds of that kind of hatred, Mr. Speaker, we're going to oppose it, and we stand opposed to it. And all of our policies and with our fibre, we will stand against any movement that does that, Mr. Speaker, and that remains our position, Mr. Speaker. It was a huge opportunity for us to travel to Israel and to meet with businesses, to meet with people from higher education, and to form partnerships, Mr. Speaker, based on our knowledge economy, but also based on our cultural ties that are decades deep, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary. Member from Niagara West Glanbrook. Be seated, please. Be seated. Sorry, member.
Thanks. Back to the Premier, Speaker. Premier, you say you oppose the BDS movement, but the problem is you oppose the bill, and you opposed a solution to help combat the growing anti-Semitism in our province and across campuses. A young man named Daniel Shakar appeared at the press conference hosted by the member for Eglinton Lawrence, Mr. Cole, and I, and she said, because of the vocal opposition to BDS, my name was featured on a white supremacist website that has accused Jews of being members of a reptilian race. I cannot wear a Star of David on campus lest I be harassed. I cannot identify myself as an Israeli without being called a murderer. She says wherever BDS motions are passed, violent anti-Semitism follows. Surely it's time to take a stand. None of us would ever countenance signing a contract with a business that refuses to do business with somebody because it's owned by a woman or a Muslim or any other faith, but somehow we hide behind free speech because the business is owned by Jews or by Israelis. Premier, let's do the right thing. Join President Obama, American legislatures, Prime Minister Cameron, and fight back against BDS.
Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Here's my suggestion, and I made the statement in Israel because I feel very strongly about, as I said, any movement or any initiative that would support anti-Semitism, would support Islamophobia, would support racism, Mr. Speaker. I feel very, very strongly about any movement of that sort. So my suggestion is to this House is let's figure out if we can craft a motion that is not divisive, that is actually unifying in motion in nature, Mr. Speaker, that actually is not flawed and chooses to divide people. Let's see if we can work together. And I made this commitment when I was on the mission, Mr. Speaker, that we would work with the opposition parties, that we would try to come up with a motion that would pass this legislature that would reflect the inclusiveness of all of the members of this legislature, Mr. Speaker. I suggest that we try to do that within the coming weeks.
Thank you. Any questions? The member from Kenora